Welcome back. Time now for The Clash. Safety concerns over so-called smart motorways, which eliminate hard shoulders and instead use cameras and AI to monitor and isolate broken-down vehicles, have been thrust into the public consciousness this week following a major expose. 1 in 10 security cameras were found to be broken, misted up or facing the wrong way in this shocking investigation by the Daily Mail. The publication embedded itself inside a control room for 6 weeks, during which time they encountered system failures, faulty and outdated hardware, CCTV black spots and a terrifying incident in which a worker declared, "We've got no signals, you're all going to die. Whichever God you believe in, start praying now." So this week, the Prime Minister Boris Johnson ordered a thorough inquiry into smart motorways, while Transport Secretary Grant Shapps admitted he was deeply concerned by the findings. 53 people have died on smart motorways in the 4 years to 2019, including the husband of one of my guests tonight. Claire Mercer's life was changed forever after her partner Jason and delivery driver Alexandra Maganu were fatally struck by a lorry while exchanging insurance information following a minor collision on the M1 in June 2019. She now leads the group Smart Motorways Kill, which is bringing a judicial review to force a legal stop to the measures. We'll be joined to debate whether smart motorways should be axed by Nick Freeman, a lawyer specialising in traffic and speeding offences, and by Richard Goddard, chairman of the Professional Recovery Operators Federation. But let me start with you, Claire. I mean, it just breaks my heart. Your husband had presumably a relatively minor crash. He had survived it. He was swapping the insurance information, but because of the smart motorway, can you just tell me what happened?
Yes, they had a minor bump, and they needed to pull over. They were at a sign that said no hard shoulder for 4 miles. 2 years ago, we knew less about smart motorways than we do now. So I don't even know if he knew what one was. But you can see on the traffic cameras, they travelled for quite a distance to try and find somewhere safer to stop. They couldn't find anywhere, so they pulled over where they could. They were hemmed in by the crash barrier, so they couldn't get the vehicles right out the live running lane. They themselves couldn't get over the barrier because it's a 30-foot drop onto the road below. They're legally obliged to swap details, so they did. And while they were doing so, a lorry ploughed into them and killed them. But these roads don't allow for physics. I argued at the time that it wasn't the lorry driver's fault. If the hard shoulder hadn't been removed, the lorry driver and Jason and Alexandra would have been in different lanes. So the cars can get around them, the lorries can't. In almost every single instance, it's a lorry that ploughs into the stranded vehicle because 40 tonnes at 56 miles an hour can't manoeuvre as quickly as a Ford Fiesta.
And they're on the smart motorways. That's the problem. So, Richard Goddard, your situation fascinates me because you were initially very against smart motorways, but you've since realised, I believe, that they're here to stay and you think they are safe. Can you just explain why you've changed your mind?
No, I haven't changed my mind at all. I was dead against smart motorways going back to 2016. I gave evidence at the Select Committee, and I said to them, if you continue with these rollouts, people will die, and people have. I founded the campaign for safer roadside rescue and recovery, because it's not just members of the public that are unsafe. The very industry that I represent, vehicle rescue and recovery industry, have never been spoken to about it, and our safety is just as paramount of importance. Our lives are important, as well as public lives. So I started that campaign, and I continue to that campaign until we forced a stock take. Grant Shapps agreed to a stock take, and I wanted to stop the rollout of smart motorways until we could see what improvements needed making, make them, and then see where we go from there. That stock take has been undertaken. I must emphasise as well that when I was dead against smart motorways and in the format that Claire's husband sadly died, I was desperately against them. But there's a new regime change at National Highways, and they've understood, instead of disregarding the rescue and recovery industry, like has been done, instead of disregarding people's safety, the new regime at National Highways has embraced the changes that have been emphasised by the stocktake. And as someone who represents the rescue and recovery industry and wants to keep us safe and the people that we go out to 24/7, 365 days a year, our safety is important, your safety is important. And so working alongside National Highways, I'm in the position to make sure that they retrofit emergency rescue areas, they retrofit digital stop vehicle detection, they improve science, they improve education to the public, and they change. They're not smart motorways at all. They kill. So they need to tell people exactly what they are, educate people as to what they are, and hopefully make the changes. Well, not hopefully, they will be forced into making the changes to make them safer for the public and safer for the vehicle rescue and recovery.
And can I just clarify, do you think that's happening?
Yes.
I can answer that because I stood at junction 34 on Friday, the junction where my husband was smashed to pieces across the road 2 years ago. Smashed to pieces. He didn't die, he was broken. At junction 34, over 2 years ago, and 25% of the equipment was not working. They have not learned a damn thing. They can't be bothered. It was the worst incident in recent times at that junction. And 2 years, 3 months and 27 days later, they've not learned a thing. I was stood there and another crash happened while I was stood there.
You're kidding me.
No, we were there for photographs and we had to get off the bridge. The photographer had to get me off the bridge because yet another crash happened while we were there because 25% of the equipment. You can try and pitch the recovery industry against the public. You can try and pitch everyone against everyone. I don't care who you are. You don't deserve to die on a smart motorway. It's not me against you. It's not me against Highways England.
I was asked a question, so if I might answer that question, because please, I understand what you've been through, but as someone that represents an industry where our people die every year, that in 2017, in October, in September, in November, we lost an operator on a conventional motorway, on a conventional hard shoulder. There weren't no inquiries. There wasn't anything. Our people died and no one cared. And what I want to do is care about what happens to you so that it doesn't happen again and make sure the industry that I represent, we are out there, even now as we speak, we are out there clearing the roads in all hours, all conditions and everything.
It's not me against you. Why are you having a go at me? It's not me against you.
I want to make sure that this doesn't...
Why are you working with the people that are doing this?
Sorry?
Why are you working with the people that did this? They're not doing anything. You got Grant Shapps to do a review, and months later, the Daily Mail embedded a reporter and found it was all rubbish. Boris Johnson has now demanded a proper inquiry. What was the previous one then, if that wasn't a proper inquiry?
Claire, I agree with you. And to be perfectly honest, you know, people like Boris Johnson, first of all, the smart motorways were rolled out. They're a legacy. Nick Harris, the new CEO of National Highways, right, embraces the changes that must be needed for safety. Grant Shapps, when he's not trying to be the next Prime Minister, he's trying to embrace that. He's trying to embrace that as well.
Okay, well, look, I want to bring Nick Freeman in. Nick, where do you stand on this from a legal perspective?
Well, I think we all agree that smart motorways are inherently dangerous, and I agree completely with Claire that they remain dangerous, and so long as there isn't a permanent hard shoulder, these tragic accidents will continue to happen. That there are so many interesting points that are raised, but just one or two statistics. First of all, you're 3 times more likely to break down on a smart motorway. Secondly, it takes an average of 17 minutes for that live lane to be closed down. So you don't need to be Einstein to work out the maths. The potential for disaster is truly horrendous. Grant Shapps. So
you say they should go, Nick?
No, what I said, well, they've invested billions and billions of pounds. So what I suggest is that they need drastic reconfiguration. We need to have, the whole purpose of these was to cope with the increased congestion on the cheap. That's what they were originally about. And nobody thought about what are we going to do for a hard shoulder in the event that there is an accident. It's a little bit like having an emergency door on an aeroplane. You know, God forbid you need it, but it has to be there. And if it's not there, you've got no escape. And that's the situation we're in. And the statistics speak for themselves. So what we need, in my view, is a permanent hard shoulder at all times. We cannot rely on technology. There's some new technology that the Grant Shapps has proposed, and at the moment it's only on 18% of our roads. So what about the other, whatever it is, 78%, 82%, sorry, my maths isn't quick enough, 82%, that is still currently without. That's with the old Midas system, which is woefully inadequate. So we're using sticking plasters to try and sort this problem out. We need a
no, indeed. Claire, would that be enough, in your opinion, to have the permanent hard shoulder, or do you think it needs to be reversed altogether? So that's, you think that would be enough?
You do what you like, call it what you like, call it an addition, call it a new model, call it anything. I don't care as long as it's got a hard shoulder. Call it reverting, calling it giving up, calling it what's winning in the High Court, as long as it has got a hard shoulder. We need a hard shoulder in every single instance. And they have started to play this card. We've spent billions. If I had billions, I'd give them the billions to get my husband back. No one person, no one industry is worth billions. They've spent the billions. They did it. They didn't ask the public. They sneaked them in by the back door. So no, because you can't object to what you don't know about. So it needs, call it what you like, but it's got to have a hard shoulder.
Richard, do you agree? Yeah, come in.
Until they revert back to hard shoulders, if that happens, it happens. But until then, I'm dedicated to representing the rescue and recovery industry and making the roads that we have got as safe as possible. I'm dedicating to retrofitting emergency rescue areas, and so that if people break down, they are closer to a refuge, somewhere of safety. I'm dedicated to making sure that there's more digital signs, that people now, if they drive where there's a red cross, that they will be fined, they'll be licensed, and even banned. All I want to try and do is make those the strategic road network, as safe as possible for everybody to use. And I will continue to work, and my industry will continue to go out and protect you and rescue you from the national highways. And we'll do that working alongside national highways until we deem that we shouldn't do. But every improvement will save lives, and we are dedicated to saving lives and making those safety improvements.
Yeah, okay, well, I understand.
In the meantime, Dan, there's one additional point. And we're all agreed it's the lorries that cause the havoc because they're on the near side. Most lorries now have an automatic detection system for detecting stationary vehicle. That is mandatory at manufacture. But what happens is lorries are turning those systems off. And what the government should do immediately is ensure that those systems, by law, remain on. So in the event that there is a car or a vehicle broken down on the near side lane, that lorry's automatic detection system will detect it, and it will then have some reasonable chance of coming to a halt. Why are these lorries, with this very important system, being allowed to cut them off?
No, indeed. And look, Claire, finally, I just say to you, I feel your pain. I completely agree. And we cannot have another death. We cannot have another ruined life like
Look, we've had 58
motorways. I know. It has to change.
That's why we're going to protest in Westminster. It's not us against you. This wasn't here for you to wave your banner. This was to talk about everyone. Why are you here to promote yourself? This is not about you. This is about everyone. Stop waving your own banner and talk about smart motorways.
I thought I just had. If you'd have listened, you might have heard it.
No, you talked about yourself for 6 minutes about what you're going to do. We're talking about smart motorways, the rest of us.
And Claire,
I think what we all need to do is to work together.
Yeah.
Using our brain, sitting calmly and work out.
Yes, that would be very good. But somebody came in for a fight. Somebody came in for a boxing match and just sat there and went for us and was very aggressive from the beginning and just self-promotion.
Well, Claire,
but anyway, sorry, back to you.
No. I hear you. I feel your emotion. My heart breaks for you, actually. And we've got to do this for your late husband. And I can't believe it happened. Claire Mercer, thank you.
And that's what we're doing.
Indeed, and keep fighting the good fight. We'll speak to you very soon. That's Claire Mercer, the Smart Motorways Kill campaigner. Before that, Richard Goddard, the chairman of the Professional Recovery Operators Federation, and the